today?
You can clap today.
Ready?
Yep. Nice.
Hello everyone! Welcome once again to Editing the Academy. I'm Daryl.
I'm Laura.
And Ms. Laura, what year are we talking about and what are the films?
These are the 1976 Oscars for movies that were made during 1975. And there were 5 films that were nominated for Best Picture. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jaws, Dog Day Afternoon, Barry Lyndon, and Nashville.
All right. Other notable films that year, because I do like doing this.
I like that.
Dolomite, one of the greatest blaxploitation films ever made.
Never seen that.
Ah, it's so badly good. 3 Days with the Condor.
Love that.
Shampoo.
Oh.
French Connection 2. The Return of the Pink Panther. Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Okay.
Early, I think possibly the first Peter Weir film.
Never seen that one either.
Ah, it's so good. It's a great mystery. Tommy. Rollerball, classic sci-fi.
Love that.
The Stepford Wives.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's favorite cult film, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That's right. I forgot it was a 75 film.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, where are we going to start this time?
I think we should start with Jaws.
You should probably mention which one won.
Oh yes, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Cuckoo's Nest won not only Best Picture. I'm stealing a little bit of your piece here, but it won kind of like the top 5 awards, which has only happened 3 times in movie history. So that is movie, actor, actress, screenplay, director.
Okay, so took all the big ones.
Yep.
Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg. Not his first film, as a lot of people think. He did an early Roger Corman one, which was like, you remember Roger Corman
Yep.
films?
Oh sure. The B movie.
Yeah.
King. Yeah.
His was like a truck that goes out of control or something.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Based on the 1974 novel by Peter Benchley, stars Roy Scheider as the police chief, Martin Brody, Robert Shaw, Murray Hamilton, Lorraine Gary, and Carl Gottlieb. Those are the big guns. The screenplay was credited to Benchley, who wrote the first drafts, and then actor-writer Carl Gottlieb wrote the script during principal photography. Jaws won 3 Academy Awards: Best Film Editing, Best Original Dramatic Score, Best Sound, and was nominated for Best Picture, of course. All right.
All right.
Is there a reason we're starting with Jaws?
There's a reason we're starting with Jaws.
Okay.
And the reason is because of the 5 movies that we watched, my God, were they bleak and sad and depressing. And I loved Jaws because we needed a little bit of some swimmers getting eaten by sharks and some good popcorn movie to palate cleanse all of the pain and sadness. Or at least I did. So
right.
how about you?
No, that's totally fair and completely correct. I forget, because it's usually like, I'll see it once a decade.
Yeah.
I forget how good of a film this
Agreed.
actually is.
Totally agree.
But it is essentially 2 movies in one. The first half is there's a thing, and it's commerce versus the natives. Like,
Yes.
what are we going to do about it? All the discussion. Occasionally, there's a shark scene, but that's principally the first half.
Right.
And then we have we're going to go on the hunt and kill the shark movie.
Right.
So 2 different movies, both completely effective. They absolutely work all the way through, but it is really 2 different movies.
I agree with that.
You know how much I love opening scenes?
Yes.
The opening scene for this, I thought, is 100% effective for the film.
Yep.
Absolutely sets the tone. The when she's being eaten and being dragged all over the place, 100% unrealistic, but it sets the tone.
It sets the tone. And also just even the beach scene of everybody kind of like drinking, smoking, hanging out on the beach. You're like, okay, this is clearly 1975.
Yeah.
Like the clothes, everything like that.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot fun facts.
Oh,
Jaws.
shit, sorry.
That's okay. So the one fun fact that I wanted to bring out was they wanted to introduce Quint. You know how he shows up and he wants to go after the $10,000. He shows up in the city council meeting or the emergency town meeting. That's not what Spielberg wanted. He wanted to show Quint in a theater watching Moby Dick, the movie Moby Dick. And Gregory Peck would not give them the rights to that movie because he did not care for his performance in the movie.
Huh, that's weird that Gregory Peck owned the rights to the
I know.
movie.
I never actually took a step further to see, was he a producer or
Yeah.
was there some reason? But that's
strange.
that is called Google. So, so trust what's on the internet or don't, but that's what they told me.
It's one of Steven Spielberg's early films, obviously, and he establishes kind of his pattern in this movie, and it really kind of came to the front, because I've seen, I think almost all of Steven Spielberg. Some are amazing, others are just horrible.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I noticed that he does incredibly well is he has multiple things happening in a scene.
Mhm.
It's not just two people talking.
Agreed.
There's stuff in the background, there are people moving through, there's always some sort of secondary, tertiary action that is
Yep.
happening in the scenes that he sets. And I hadn't really noticed that before, but it became very obvious in this one. The scene where Roy Scheider's on the phone in the kitchen, it's just, there's stuff happening
Yes,
all
yep,
over the
family
place.
action,
Yep.
regular family action.
So the framing of what he does, and this is obviously a conscious choice, is to give you a lot of things that are happening in an individual scene, which I appreciate. I like it.
And I think it's not only the action, it's like when they were standing under the billboard and you could see somebody had to face the billboard,
Yep.
and you could see all of the people who had died by shark by that point. And
Yep.
so there's a lot of interesting things happening in the frame, action, but also just little set pieces to catch your attention.
I think it's also probably the young, hungry director. Like, I'm going to put as much into
Yeah.
this as I can. This might be my only one shot, so at
Could
least
be.
I'm going to be happy with this.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I think, it's either this or Star Wars, so it must be this, was the first big, like, summer blockbuster movie.
It was Jaws.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it did kind of establish this whole sub-horror genre of, don't go into the water, or don't go here, or don't go there. And in a lot of those movies, the later ones, the rule became, it's more effective if you don't show the monster.
Right.
And in this one, it's not that they don't show the monster. I mean, it's very easy to have the fin so you know that it's there, but you don't really see it until much later in the movie. Was that effective? Do you think that worked? Or would you have liked to have seen, like a couple teeth earlier on?
I thought it was very effective. I liked that you didn't see the full shark and your imagination filled in the blanks. I think also, and again, this is the today looking back at it, the
Yeah.
shark itself was not that scary.
No.
But in the 70s, I'm sure that it was. I'm sure the things they could do with that shark, they did it the best that they could.
And I'd read that they had like 3 or 4 different versions of it.
Makes sense.
Some of them didn't work as far as the
Mhm.
filming of it, but they eventually got the one that was the most realistic. And if you notice, there's very few shots of like it very close
Yes.
up.
Mhm.
There were a lot of things apparently that were mechanically wrong with it when they were trying to
Oh,
film
really?
it.
Okay, I didn't know that piece. Yeah.
Things that I liked about this, it's a really good depiction of island summer life.
Mm-hmm.
You have the natives, and then you have the people that are coming in to basically, keep them alive for the next year. All the tourists that come through, having gone and spent a lot of time on Vinyl Haven here in Maine
Right.
throughout my entire life, they nailed that aspect of it. Like,
Yep.
we tolerate the fact that you're here. We really, really like you because of your money.
Oh, yeah, you are the summer people.
Yes.
You are absolutely the summer people.
So they nailed
Mhm.
that. The sound editing I thought was really good, particularly when they would do like above water, below water.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I picked up on that. Yeah.
So kudos to them for that. And we do have to mention that the soundtrack to this,
No.
yeah,
No.
that's all you need to do is 2 freaking
That's it.
notes, and everybody knows exactly what
Yes.
you're talking about. Just da-na, that's it.
This whole movie actually has its own lexicon. It created,
Yeah.
we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many things that you say today that come from this movie.
Absolutely.
And yeah, absolutely. Quint, you know what I'm talking about. If I say the term, he's kind of a quint, you know exactly who that is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a lot of criticisms of it. The only real criticisms is a lot of this is just completely over the top, unbelievable. Like, again, the girl being dragged around, the shark being dragged
Yeah.
around, and that would be it. But it works for what they're attempting to do, so even though much of it is completely ridiculous, it doesn't matter.
I agree. Do you think this would be termed a horror movie or a thriller or anything? Like we talked about, The Exorcist is not really a horror movie.
Right.
And I think the same thing for this. I mean, it's a little bit of a thriller, but it keeps tension all the way through the movie. And
very
so
well.
there's probably, I think, about 2 jump scares. And other than that, it's really, it's just constant tension that you're under.
Yeah,
And
I don't know. Like, I know in horror is kind of a blanket area. There's all the
Yeah.
subgenres, like horror porn, where it's just naked girls getting slashed, and
Yeah.
slasher films and all of that. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I would call it a horror film,
Okay.
only because there is a monster that is trying to kill people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, the filmmaking, the other thing is, the shot that you see, obviously Roy Scheider, and then he is in the foreground and the background disappears. And I know that they stole that shot from Vertigo, because I'd seen it before in Vertigo, but still, I think of Jaws when I see that shot, and that shot is still incredibly effective for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, the soundtrack, the only con, really, and it's not even a con, that I can think of is when they have the barrels, the yellow barrels up, and they're kind of weakening the shark. As they're going through the water, the score becomes almost whimsical, and it's not scary. It gets a little playful and whimsical, and that just seemed odd with what it is I'm supposed to be feeling. So it just it threw me off a little bit.
Okay, I'll grant you that one.
Yeah, and I'm actually gonna credit my sister had that comment. So it was a family watch. We watched it with my 22-year-old nephew. I've seen it before this time around, and so we had to be like, that is an encyclopedia. That is a rotary phone. That's a phone booth. So that was a lot of fun.
I can see.
He's like, I've seen history books. I know what that is.
Remind me later when we're done with this. There's a thing that I follow, a lady that I follow every once in a while who talks to the 20-somethings are now. Just
terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Terrifying.
Okay, I don't really have anything else aside to it. I do believe it 100%, even in comparison to the other films that were released, do believe it deserved to be nominated.
Agree.
It's definitely one of, and it's one of those that I enjoy because it's a really good film that's also a lot of fun.
Towering Inferno kind of brings to mind. Yes, absolutely. The only last thing I have to talk about is the plaid of it all. I mean, the 1970s, love it. I love the look. It's fun to watch and be like, oh, that's just a bad look. Yeah, there are many corresponding plaids. Yeah, in one outfit. Sorry.
It is definitely a movie of its time.
It is of its
100%.
time. Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to move on to next?
Your call. I needed to talk to Jaws. Now I'm ready to get into the...
Let's get Nashville out of the way just because it's the next one on my list, and I kind of want to get it out of the way.
All right, tell me why you want to get it out of the way.
Well, let's go through the stuff first. Produced, directed by Robert Altman. This is the second film of his that we've done, Matt being previous. Huge cast. David Arkin, Barbara Baxley, Ned Beatty, Karen Black, Renee Blakely, Timothy Brown, Keith Carradine, Geraldine Kaplan, Robert Duquoy, Shelley Duvall, Alan Garfield, Henry Gibson, Scott Glenn, Jeff Goldblum, Barbara Harris, David Hayward, Michael Murphy, Alan F. Nichols, Dave Peel, Christina Rains, Burt Remsen, Lily Tomlin, Gwen Wells, and Keenan Wynn, all of which were pretty big people at the time.
All, and they were all main characters too. You can't really cut any of them out.
Yep. Screenplay was written by Joan Tewksbury, and it's based on her experience, loosely based on her experience when she was in Nashville. 5 Academy Award nominations, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actress for both Renee Blakely and Lily Tomlin, and it won for Best Original Song for Carradine's track, I'm Easy.
Couple fun facts.
Yep.
Well, actually, the biggest fun fact, this is not fun fact. R.I.P. Shelley Duvall, who just lost as of the recording of this podcast. Yep. And then the interesting fact, which we'll talk about also later, is the original person that was going to play Lily Tomlin's character was Louise Fletcher, because Lily Tomlin was cast as Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Wow.
Yes.
What a different movie that would have been.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's unclear, and I've seen this from several different sources, so it's unclear who left which and left that position open for the other actress, so like who got picked over, but they were both cast in the opposite roles.
Huh. That would have been such a different movie.
I know. Okay.
I'm coming to realize that I'm not as big of a Robert Altman fan as I thought I was.
Okay.
So, we'll dive in. I did love the opening. It's busy. There's tons of stuff going on. It sets the tone. Everybody's just talking a mile a minute. The politics, he went back to his trope from MASH, where you have basically just a voice that is speaking through the truck that's giving out the political thing, like it did in MASH. The politics, everything, it just was all of this stuff super quick right up there, and I was like, all right, I'm in, because I've never seen Nashville. I had not
this
seen
is my second watching,
So I was like, okay, I'm in. This is going to be busy. I'll have to pay attention. And then it just fell apart.
So I've never been much of a Robert Altman fan, so it continues. The thing I took away was, this is one of those films that the National Film Registry called culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. I agree with that.
Yeah, I can see that.
I fully agree with that. there were so many picks on it that I didn't care for because it gave you so much and then also not enough.
Yeah.
You know, it gave you so many characters. It didn't delve into really the motivations of very many of them. You could tell a lot of it, and I don't have to be spoon-fed. But you could have spent 2 hours on the Lily Tomlin family and character and why is she sleeping with David Carradine?
Yeah.
It's David Carradine, right?
Yep.
Keith. Why is she sleeping with Keith Carradine? I don't think she is sleeping with David Carradine. And you know, all of that, like, what is that motivation and what's happening there? The Shelley Duvall and Keenan Wynn and that whole little side story, super interesting. I don't understand why they ended with the assassination attempt at the end. Like, I thought that came out of absolutely nowhere.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, the character who tried to assassinate, obviously kind of sketchy AF. You know, he was definitely an odd duck. Something was going on with him. But I certainly didn't assume he was going to try to kill a country singer.
No, you thought because he was constantly carrying around that case, you just thought he was, you know, trying to be another person going to Nashville to try to make it, and just an odd duck, but fine, he's trying to make it like everybody else. So yeah, it did come out completely out of left field. By the way, of course, as always, major spoilers.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have to say that at the beginning, probably.
I put it in the videos, but anyway.
All right.
There are some funny moments.
Yeah.
Very early on when the big country star is singing, and he like keeps hammering on the piano player, but right before that he gets super upset because the reporter is there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he's like, "There's no recording equipment in the studio."
Yeah.
Of course, that's what a studio is for and filled with.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, I didn't really.
So I mean, again, it's about appreciation less than enjoying it.
Yes.
And so I appreciated the music, like, and also reading the credits at the end, it appeared that all of the actors who sang are the ones who wrote their songs.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's fascinating. That's really interesting. They get to have some agency over what the music is and what their character is saying through music. I thought that was fascinating. I wonder what that process was like, but I didn't care, and unfortunately. I just didn't understand. Interesting question for you.
Yeah.
I read the review of the movie by Roger Ebert just to see, like, what did he think? He loved it, but he also said the movie revolves around 3 themes: success, women, and politics.
Success, yes. Women, yes, because a lot of the women are established, mid, and up and coming.
Yes.
And the guy characters tend to kind of take a back seat to a lot of that. So yes, I'll agree with that. And politics, yes, but it's mishandled.
Absolutely, that's where I was going to go. Yeah. So tell me about that.
So it's mishandled because they don't really. If they had given more motivation rather than just have it be a background kind of thing, if we learned why these things were being said and why people were feeling this way, the end would make a lot more sense, number one, but also the necessity of it as the backdrop would make a lot more sense as well. Like, narratively, it was just there. It didn't really do anything. I know what it was trying to do, which is to set up the end, but it failed. It just
totally failed.
It didn't work.
And the only other piece that I would add to it is like the Americana that kind of was like over all of it, between all the patriotic songs and all of that. It was very Americana gone wrong, is I think what one of the things he was saying.
I agree.
I
have a question for you.
Okay.
The up and coming singer, the blonde one, not blonde, the redhead, who's, I don't remember the actress's name.
Is she the one who sang at the strip club?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is exactly the scene I wanted to talk
about.
All right,
cool.
So she thinks she's a great singer. Turns out she's not.
Terrible.
And so she goes and I can't remember if they actually booed her or if she just left. But then to win them back, she goes out and strips. Like, why? I didn't understand why that was necessary. The men convinced her to. Correct.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why they would do that, just because they want to see a pair of tits. I mean, why would they do that?
My guess is that they hired her to strip, and she thought they hired her to sing. So I thought that they hired her as entertainment, and their understandings of what she was going to do was very different. I thought the men hired her to strip, and so they were asking her to do what they hired her to do, and the girl thought they hired her to sing. So that was my impression.
That makes it more tolerable.
Yeah.
And that makes that makes sense because
Otherwise, it's unconscionable.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was visibly upset, and I'm like, you're gorgeous, and that's fun to look at, but really, why are they making you do this?
Yeah.
I did not understand that,
I
and it
think
made me upset.
I think again, she was a commodity,
Yeah.
and she tried to sell this and did not have the skill to, so she's sold
She's
what else she had.
All right, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that just upset me.
That was how I interpreted it.
And I think you're right, because
Mhm.
that would make sense in the context of the film. But again, this is why I need more. Like
Right.
that was not explained.
You were given that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I did not like this film at all.
I did not either. Nope. I thought it was. I appreciated it. I keep coming back to that.
Okay, so let's move on from that one. Where do you want to go? Your choice.
Let's get Barry Lyndon on the table.
All right.
Okay.
Barry Lyndon, directed, produced by Stanley Kubrick. This is the second one that we've been going over, based on the 1844 novel *The Luck of Barry Lyndon* by William Makepeace Thackeray, who was a big novelist at the time. Narrated by Michael Hodern and starring Ryan O'Neal, Marissa Berenson, Patrick McGee, Leonard Rossiter, and Hardy Kruger.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
If you thought Ryan O'Neal was miscast, and spoiler to my comments later, Warner Brothers would only finance this film if Kubrick cast a top 10 star in the leading role.
So Ryan.
Yeah.
So this was nominated for
Oh,
Best
sorry,
Picture.
that's
No,
okay.
you're fine. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Costume Design, Best Scoring, Original Song Score, or Adaptation. And it won for Art Direction, Cinematography, Costume Design, and the Score. All of that was fine by me. A lot of period pieces end up
Yeah.
being like Art Direction and Costume
Sure.
and stuff like that.
It looked very pretty.
It did.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. So, this one is very different than the last film that we did.
Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah.
It's a lot longer. Was this your first time seeing this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is my second. I saw it again back in my pretentious 20s, and
Okay.
when I was going through my Stanley Kubrick phase. And,
Okay.
I thought
What are your thoughts then versus now?
then I enjoyed it. I really did, but it was my least favorite film that he directed.
Okay.
Just not because like the direction or anything, but just because it didn't seem like this is the kind of film that would work well in Stanley Kubrick's hands. He needs
Mhm.
something that's not a period piece, that's different, that's bigger, and you can focus on all I don't know, just like the period piece
Yeah.
aspect. I don't think he handles that as well as other people would.
He needs to look at something at a strange angle.
Correct.
And you really can't do that with this type of vehicle.
No, this
Yeah.
is a much more straightforward kind of movie, and you're right. He does have to have an angle and a take to be able
Yeah.
to attack something, and so I just
Mhm.
think overall the film lacked because he didn't have that thing. And please let us know if you think there was and we've missed something,
Right.
because if so, I definitely missed it.
The only thing that, because when I first watched it, I thought this is not the same guy as Clockwork Orange. When I dug a little bit deeper, the things that I found in common were there's no heroes in this movie.
Correct.
Also no heroes. The set.
Not even an anti-hero.
No, just nobody you grasp onto. The set design I thought was impeccable.
Mhm.
It was beautiful, and it's that specific attention to detail that he had.
Yeah.
I found that also just like in every room, in every place that Ryan O'Neal's character was. But those are the things I found in common. But it was a great departure.
Ryan O'Neal as the lead. Did you accept it? Were you fine with it, or did he kind of take you out of the movie overall?
Fully took me out of the movie. I thought he was terrible. He
Yeah.
had no charm. I mean, like, I've seen him in things where he has charm and charisma.
Love Story was fine.
He has none of that in this movie.
No.
He was very flat, and he looked like a 70s guy in dress up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
He looked uncomfortable
Yes.
at moments. Like
Yep.
he was not comfortable in the clothing, so he
Yes.
was standing awkward, and his movements were almost stiff. And I don't know. I think he was totally miscast.
Well, and no chemistry with the women that he was with
No.
at all. And again, known for chemistry, known for he's a great lover in the movies and out. And that did not come across at all. So we've seen, I kept going back to Patton, where we said that movie lived and died by the performance of the main character. And the same thing here. I think it kind of lived and died on the performance of the main character, and it was flat.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. I agree.
Yeah.
For something like this, you do need to see You need to become invested in the characters. You don't have to like them, but you have to
Yes.
become invested in them. You have to be on the journey with them, watch them do their despicable things, try to get redemption, all of that. And if the performance is not giving you that in for you, the rest of it does not matter. You can have the greatest direction and the most beautiful scenery, but if your performances aren't there, it doesn't matter.
Well, the difference between him and Malcolm McDowell, I mean, doing Clockwork Orange, fantastic.
I'm not sure why, but the scene where they get married, I wonder if the Princess Bride was doing an homage to this.
Marriage?
Yeah, because the guy, he doesn't actually have a lisp, but he kind of speaks weird.
I didn't notice that. I have
The
to go back and
framing
read
of
that
it
now.
is
Okay.
almost
Watch it
exactly the same. Like, I know it's common to be able to frame a
No,
marriage
but
thing
still.
like that, but it was, like, to me, I was like, this is the Princess Bride, just non-comedically.
I totally need to go back and look at that. Okay.
I would suggest it.
All
Let
right.
us know, obviously,
Yeah.
if you agree or disagree.
One scene I would love for you to go back and see if you didn't pick up on this, but the scene where the girl that he meets who has the baby, and he rents a room from or whatever. And he's with for a very short time. That baby in the scene where she has the baby crooked in her arms, she's feeding the baby, they're having a romantic moment, then they kiss. That baby's the cutest damn thing I've ever seen, and the best actor in the entire film. Because the baby is like watching that spoon. The woman is not even like going close to the baby's mouth, and that kid's getting every spoonful. And then when they start kissing, the baby gives them just the cutest look, like, what is happening here?
What are you doing, Mom?
Yeah, exactly. What is happening here? And so go back and watch that scene, because
Okay.
that was the cutest in the whole movie, I thought.
I also had a problem with that scene. Like, I get lonely, bored housewife, but
Yeah.
why was this necessary? Like, why?
Because
Great.
they had no chemistry either. Yeah.
I don't know.
What did you think about the voiceover element?
I didn't mind the voiceover, actually.
Okay.
That was one of the things that I kept latching onto to help get me through,
Yeah.
because it did give you information. It didn't give you all the information, but it did kind of help set what you were either about to see or just watched. The opening, when they first have the narration and his father's in a duel and then
Yes,
dies,
yeah.
the way they handled that,
Yeah.
I thought was hysterical.
It was very funny.
Yeah.
I was hopeful when I saw that
Yeah.
first. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna dig this movie. This
Yeah.
is cool.
But after that, no.
Yeah. Yeah. It was beautifully shot, beautifully lit, gorgeous costumes, very epic in scale with all of the battle scenes. Lovely to watch.
Yeah,
You're like, yeah.
yeah. The whole movie, I think, can be summed up for me very simply. There's lots of just sitting in moments, which is great in
Yeah.
film, as long as those moments are meaningful and
Yeah.
there's something that's actually said. There's just lots of lingering in moments with nothing
Yes.
being said, nothing going on. It's like we're just here, uncomfortably long.
Yes, I agree. Nobody grew up or down in this movie.
Nope.
And then the one last note is never give a young child a horse. Asterisk, see Bonnie Blue Butler from Gone with the Wind. So
Okay.
that is just not a good thing to
You
do.
know, I'm going to admit this to you now. I've never seen Gone with the Wind.
Oh yeah, we're gonna take care of that.
Okay.
Okay, you have to see Gone with the Wind. Asterisk
Pro-
noted for all historical problems with
Yes.
it. It still is an amazing movie.
All right, so shall we move on to Dog Day Afternoon?
Absolutely.
All right, Dog Day Afternoon, directed by Sidney Lumet, produced by Martin Brakeman, Martin Elfland. The film stars Al Pacino, John Cazale, James Broderick, and Charles Durning. Screenplay written by Frank Pearson is based on the Life magazine article, The Boys in the Bank. So this is based on a real life
Yep.
event.
Mhm.
And that article was written by P.F. Klug and Thomas More. Nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Original Screenplay, Best Film Editing, and it won for Screenplay. Go with the facts.
The facts. So Officer Sheldon with the FBI, the big FBI guy that kind of came in and took over, was played by James Broderick,
Mhm.
father of Matthew Broderick.
Oh!
Yeah.
I can see that now.
Yep,
I can
yep.
see that.
So
Okay.
that's the first one. And the second one, and I was wondering how it was kind of received in the day.
Mhm.
The National Gay Task Force, which was a well-respected advocacy group at the time, signed off on the script and found it sensitive and tasteful.
Good.
So interesting. Okay.
And I thought it was as well.
I did as well, but wasn't sure how it was received in the time. So
No, makes total sense.
all good.
Okay. This one is definitely a 70s film.
Sure.
It is nowadays people would be going back to try to reproduce this and reproduce that look, but luckily the incident had only happened a couple of years
Yep.
earlier, so just
Yeah.
use what you got.
What you got in the closet, yeah.
The performances, there's very few that took me out of it. Broderick's dad, he kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
He was not quite, I think, the right fit. He was fine, but he wasn't up to the same level as everybody else.
Like, when you compare, especially him and Charles Durning, I thought Charles Durning was so far ahead. Yeah.
But this movie is the Al Pacino show. It is 100% Al Pacino all the way through. Everybody else are secondary characters. They are treated as secondary characters. Their acting is up to par, but it is 100% Al all the way through.
Yep, I agree. The one thing I'd say about this, because you noted it was based on real events, is if it hadn't been based on real events, you wouldn't believe the story happened.
Yeah.
With all of the things that went wrong in the bank and the reason he was getting the money, you wouldn't have believed all of that situation when he asked him to go get his wife, and it's actually, you know, a man, even though he is married to a woman and who he considers to be his wife at that time frame. I was just surprised by all of that, and so I thought it was an interesting premise, and Al Pacino knocked it out of the park. I thought he was phenomenal.
The movie to me shows how quickly you can adapt to any circumstance that you put in by the exterior nature of that circumstance. Like they're almost out of the bank and then they get stuck, and then very quickly they adapt to that, and you watch the people adapt very quickly. Half an hour into the film, the ladies in the bank are laughing, playing games, like
playing with the gun.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, absolutely.
So just shows how easily people can adapt to circumstances. Here's a big thing. I started to focus on kind of more like psychological, thematical elements of this one because I think it was relevant. The women in his life are all 100% overbearing and do not listen to him.
Very dominant.
His wife just talks straight through him, does not allow him to say anything. In order to say anything, he has to yell and get very angry. And the same with his mom when his mom comes. He basically married his mother.
He did. I totally thought the same thing.
So I wonder if, based on that, if that would be some sort of rationale, not for his, liking men, that's not really a choice, that's just kind of the way you are, but to embrace that as fully, particularly at the time, as he did, I wonder if that is because of the women in his life, if the film was trying to show that to us as a rationale.
It's a great question. I don't know, but I did notice exactly as you did that the women in his life were very domineering, and yet the partner he had chosen was not.
Correct.
So, the person that he was happiest with was not. So there's a little piece of that to it as well. So I don't know. And yet he really took to the moment of going out and having the crowd in his favor and chanting with the crowd and getting them on his side. I thought that was interesting too. I did a little deep dive Google search onto the Attica,
which was a real life event.
Exactly, and like that was horrible, and no wonder the crowd was on his side and anti-police at that time.
So, because of a lot of that sentiment, I think that the Sonny character takes on a bit more than just a man going through things. He does become kind of a representation on the people who are very frustrated and the downtrodden of the
disenfranchised. Yes.
So it's very easy for him to become a symbol and for people to start chanting his name. And I think the film totally pushes you in that direction. Like, this is a representation of people during that time. This one just happens to be gay. That's not a big deal.
Exactly. It was taken as not a big deal.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I thought that the tension level just ramped up over the course of it. And I had not seen the full movie. I knew the general threads of it. And so I, in my head, was thinking, okay, this is not going to end well, but I don't know how it's going to end badly. Like, I know it's not going to end well. So I was surprised by the ending.
Were you expecting like a shootout at the bank?
Yeah. Totally. I certainly didn't expect them to even get into the car and get away from the bank, to go to the airport. I was surprised about that. But they all, like, over the course of the day, got hotter and more disheveled, and you could almost smell the room. Yeah. And like even the head teller was all buttoned up and very professional, and she's kind of into her camisole by the end of the whole events.
And that will happen when you lose your air conditioning. You're all stuck in a building.
Well, exactly. But even so, like at that time, a very buttoned up, proper woman, I would think it might even take longer than that. So it was, as you said, they were all getting accustomed to that world they were having to live in at that time.
One of the things that I did like, which was kind of a thread that they weaved in, was the media as participatory, not just
Yes.
reporting. And this is one of the first times I remember that you see it. Maybe when we get to when we get to network, that'll be a bigger conversation. But this is one of the first times in the films that we've seen where the media itself is part of the event, not just reporting on the event. We now know, of course, many years later, that that's a rampant thing.
Do you think that's relevant at all to today in any way?
No.
Yeah, I just thought, I thought it maybe dragged on a hair too long. It just, I thought it was great. I thought the tension level was great. I thought it was the Al Pacino show, and he rose to the occasion.
Absolutely.
And like you were saying, the supporting characters were fantastic. So,
as you like to say, everybody knew their assignment.
yes, exactly. They did. They knew their assignment and they performed it well. I do have to talk about Chris Sarandon's hair, which was because I do love hair and eyebrows.
Sure.
So very big and wrong. So, but they interrupted him. So you come as you are. But it was not a good hair day for Chris Sarandon, who I was thrilled was up for a Best Supporting Actor nomination.
Oh, good
for that role. Mm-hmm.
Good for him. His character was slightly strange to me because you think that Sonny is desperately in love with this man and it is reciprocal and they're actually together, and it is not that way at all.
I don't think it is reciprocal.
No.
Exactly. It's almost that Sonny is treating this character like his wife, or he's the wife or mother role.
Yes.
And so he's the domineering person.
And this guy does not like this. Like,
No.
I'm sure at one point they were totally fine and happy together, but
things happen.
Sonny kind of probably kept playing the mother role, and this guy was like, dude, I put a gun in my mouth to get away from
Yes,
you.
exactly. Now cops have dragged me away from my nice, happy, secure little rest home, and it's not good.
Yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of this one. This was,
Yep.
I think, the second time I've seen it, maybe the third, but
Okay. First time I've seen it all the way through, seen clips.
and there were little things that I noticed that I hadn't seen before, just like small little performances of people doing things. Much like Steven Spielberg, in scenes there's a lot of action that is actually happening. It's not just focused on one thing all the time.
Yeah.
And picking up on some of those small little things, it just gave it a little bit fuller.
The bank manager was fantastic.
Yeah.
Every small little part. Little baby Carol Kane, she was adorable. Yeah. Everybody was really good and understood their assignment.
Okay, shall we move on to the winner?
Let's do it. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
First time?
No, second time.
Okay. I think this was 3 for me.
Okay.
So, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, directed by Milos Forman, based on the novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Jack Nicholson, Louise Fletcher, Will Sampson, Danny DeVito, Sidney Lassick, William Redfield, and the film debuts of Christopher Lloyd and Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif was nominated for an Oscar for this. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, winning Picture, Director, Actor for Jack Nicholson, Actress for Fletcher, Screenplay, and that was it.
Okay. So 2 fun facts. The first fun fact is the book is actually written from the chief's perspective.
I heard that.
Which I think would have been really interesting. And then the second fun fact is that Kirk Douglas purchased it purchased the rights and intended to play the starring role. And
Because did they make a play out of it too?
yes,
I think?
Yep, it was a play first, and so he intended to play the starring role, gave it to Michael Douglas to produce, his son, and the director thought that Kirk was too old, so they went with Jack Nicholson, and that caused a rift between father and son for most of their lives, because
Really?
Michael Douglas has talked about it on talk shows. Kirk thought that Michael should have fought for him, because he still wanted to play the role.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
I did know that. I did not know that that was the thing that caused the rift.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Seen this one multiple times. I will admit straight out of the bag, I did not enjoy it as much as previous watches.
Okay.
I do not think this is a movie that holds up upon repeated watches.
Okay.
I think it's one of those one and done and let it sit in your memory as a good experience.
Okay.
When you really start to get into it and pick it apart, I don't think you're going to enjoy it as much, which was my issue with it this time.
Okay.
Even trying to get back to that first place, and I loved it the first time I saw it. I thought the performances, just the scope, the subject matter, everything was amazing. I did not have that same experience this time. So unfortunately, I had a lesser experience rewatching it.
All right, so I will tell you, I actually really avoided watching this for the second time because the first time I watched it, I thought it was amongst the most goddamn depressing movies I had ever seen,
Absolutely.
and it still is. But this time, I'm like, all right, let me watch it for the movie, less the story, and I had maybe more enjoyment of it this time. But it's not an enjoyable movie.
No,
It's a beautiful, not even beautiful, it's a well done movie. It's a well crafted movie. There's a lot of positives to it. There's a few criticisms of it. But it is not an enjoyable movie by any stretch of the imagination.
And that's fine. Some of my favorite
Yes.
movies are not enjoyable movies.
Yes.
And those to me are infinitely rewatchable. And you kind of go back to them when you go back to a movie. It's usually for a reason. It makes you feel
Yeah.
a particular way, comfort over it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This one, no. Like I don't ever want to watch this movie
Okay.
again.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm done.
You're correct. The performances, the direction, everything about it is spot on and top notch.
Yes.
But it is hard sometimes to get through that. But here's my big question for you.
Okay.
Everybody has debated for years whether Nurse Ratched is actually an evil psychopath kind of person.
Yes.
Do you believe that she is?
Yes.
You do?
I do, for a couple of reasons.
Okay, please
and
explain.
so there are two specific examples of that. One of which is in the group therapy. She is far more interested in the sexual proclivity of each of these characters, and she is like really poking at those things and enjoying their discomfort. You can see, I thought I could see the enjoyment on her face.
Okay.
So I think that she is in a position of power.
Yes.
Which she likes to have the power, and also just in that particular situation, she liked to make people uncomfortable. There was no reason for her to poke in the ways that she did to get people more healthy or to get people to open up. It was just, there was a little glee in her eye.
Okay, that's one.
That I thought. And the second one was when Jack Nicholson is watching television and starts like pretending there's a baseball game, pure hatred on her face of Jack Nicholson, of he is taking over, he is getting control, they are listening to him, I am losing my followers. And because, again, I think power was so important to her. So maybe she's not evil, but she wants to control people below her that she has the power over. And that is, you know what, I'm going to go back, that is evil. So I've talked myself back around to it. I think the fact that she wants power over the powerless makes her evil.
I don't think it's necessary power over the powerless.
Okay.
I think she's 100% a control freak.
Yes.
She enjoys her and things being done her way. When they don't, she gets upset. I don't think there's any evil intent in it. It is simply, this is my world, you will obey my rules, and when you don't, or when I'm challenged, I'm going to get upset, because I'm a control freak.
Right.
I don't think that there was evil intent. I don't think she was purposely trying to hurt people. I would have to rewatch that scene where you see the glee in her eyes. The hatred when Jack is taking away her power, absolutely. Yeah. But that would be a control
because
freak.
that fits your scenario as well as mine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I would have to go back and rewatch that. But I don't think she's evil. I just think she's a massive, massive control freak who has been given a very small segment of power that she does not want to give up. And of course, that's the entire movie. It's Jack versus her throughout the entire process.
But she has the opportunity to get rid of Jack Nicholson, and she wants to make sure he bends to her. I still see that as evil, because if it was just control, great, get the thing out of my way that I cannot control, that is messing with my environment. Get him out of here. And then I will be happy in my controlled environment again. But she wants to bend him to her will.
Okay, that's valid, and I will have to think about that more, because if indeed that is the case, then yes, there is evil intent there. So I'm going to have to think about
that. Okay, excellent. Good question.
The movie itself, obviously, that is one of the central themes. I mean, this was written by Ken Kesey in the 60s, where this was a question on everybody's mind. Free will versus somebody trying to control you, go.
Yeah.
So this was a central theme that was explored throughout, primarily through Jack Nicholson's character, as he keeps testing boundaries and winning.
Yep.
Ultimately, he loses.
Yep. He loses big.
Yeah. But that, I thought the exploration of that and the scenes that they had where he challenges and wins and all the reactions were incredibly well done. Yeah. I thought they were successful. They moved everything forward. They were necessary. They were the correct length, all of that. The one that broke my heart was when they have the big, massive party, and she comes in the next morning, and Brad Dourif, who obviously was just trying to get laid and had the willing partner.
Yep.
And this is where I will say that this is the one thing that I go back and forth on with her being evil or not. She uses the one thing against him that he is defenseless against,
His
which
mother.
his mother.
Mhm.
And that's why he goes off and kills himself, because he cannot deal with his mother
Yes.
knowing and the shame of all of that. That was not nice.
Yes.
And that was heartbreaking. But that is, again, she's reasserting her control over this person who had rebelled against her.
And I will give you that one, that I don't think she in any way intended for him to kill himself.
I don't think
She
so.
wanted to bring the control back,
Yeah.
and she did want to shame him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
McMurphy's character is in jail, and he's being transferred in the opening. And
Right.
the reason he is in jail is because he had had sex with somebody that was not of legal age, and he thought was of
Yes.
legal age. What would be called statutory rape, I believe?
Statutory rape. Yep.
Does that make him, because you hear rape and you're just like instantly put
Yes.
off. Does that make him a more accessible character because of his interpretation of it? Like, I didn't know she was acting
Yeah.
such and such an age. And that one of the first things they talk about, that's how we learn it. That can be off-putting for a lot of people, to know that.
Again, you've got to look at it through the 75 lens.
100%.
And in doing so, and I hate to say this because it's horrible regardless of when, in the 1975 lens, believing her, I believed that he believed she was over
Yeah, he
18.
was genuine in what he was speaking.
Exactly, and I believe that he believed, whether it's true or not, she was consenting. So all of those things being true, I don't think it made him an evil character. I think he was a bad guy. Like he was a general low-life bad guy.
Yeah. So
He certainly did not deserve his end. Let's put it that way.
my question though is like, why is that piece of information even there? Why put this out there so that someone is going to be prejudging this character before we even really get to know him? We don't need to know why he's in jail.
I think we do. I think we need to know, why is he in jail? He's in jail for something serious, but he didn't kill anyone. He didn't, he didn't. I think you need to know that, okay, it's a bad thing, but it's not so bad.
Okay.
And in the time, it wasn't so bad. I'm not saying it wasn't so bad, but I think you did need to know. Because
Okay.
you needed to know what level of dislike should I have for this person.
And I can agree with that, and I
Yeah.
will absolutely accept that, but as it was happening, that was the question I had.
Okay.
Like, why do we need this information? Because now you're biasing me towards this person?
Yeah.
Is that what you want me to do? And then I'm going to overcome that bias by
Yeah.
liking him because he's such a fun-loving kind of guy?
Mm-hmm.
Was that necessary? I don't know if it is. I'll go with what you say.
And
but
I don't know that we ever really were supposed to like him so much as understand him a little bit. Because he basically got out of jail because he thought this would be the easier road.
Right.
So, I don't know. I loved how, and we talked about Jack Nicholson, that sometimes he does it for me, sometimes he doesn't. He was spectacular in this movie. Every emotion was across his face. Like, you could see the glee of being free out of his handcuffs. You could see the moment when he realized that he couldn't get out of the mental institution at the same time that he could have gotten out of jail. Like, everything played across his face with no words.
Yeah.
So I thought he was spectacular.
Speaking of, real quick, one thing that I forgot, he was in 3 films that came out in 1975.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay, what were they?
The other one was The Passenger and The Fortune.
I don't think I've seen either of those.
No,
Okay.
I may have seen The Passenger, I can't remember. I'd have to go and watch a trailer for it. But yeah,
Interesting.
3 films in that one year.
Okay, interesting.
You can tell he was the it thing.
Oh,
at the
he
moment.
absolutely was. Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie. I thought it handled everything well, like I stated before. It is a well-crafted, well-directed, well-put together, well-acted.
Good story.
Absolutely. Everything is 100% top-notch, but at the end, now upon rewatch, I'm like, I don't ever want to see this movie again. Ever.
I agree. I think that it tried to leave you on a hopeful note. It was a falsely hopeful note. I mean, let's be honest. I think Chief's going to get caught in about 3 minutes.
Yeah. She's a big boy.
She's a big boy with no money and a mental institution uniform on. So I'm not thinking good things for him. But so I will ask you: did he do the right thing or the wrong thing by killing Jack Nicholson's character?
Oh, I think he totally did the right thing. Like
Totally.
he had started to develop feelings for him, not romantic feelings,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just
Friendship.
and understood who he was and knew that he himself would not want to be living this life. So he killed somebody, but I think he did it out of kindness, not out of malice.
Well, and didn't Nurse Ratched really kill him?
Yes.
He ended his life, but I think that she actually killed him. And we got to have a minute for her, because that performance was also spectacular.
She's
and
amazing.
she really didn't do that much afterwards because she was so hated in this role, which is a shame.
Side note, have you seen the Netflix series?
I haven't. Have you?
I did. It's
Okay.
worth it.
Okay.
It's a lot of backstory and the build up to what they believe is her, and
Okay.
it 100% operates on the premise that she is evil.
Okay, all right. I was curious which tack they take.
Yeah.
I love Sarah Paulson, so not surprising that it's terrific.
Okay.
All right.
Any-
One flaw.
Okay.
One major flaw with this movie, which we've seen with other movies and you see it all the time, is the unnecessary plot point. So to move things forward, they had to fall asleep and not get out the window. And it's like, please, you're gonna have these girls show up, you're gonna have your party, you're gonna do all of these things, and then you're going to fall asleep. At which point also they had the camera on Jack Nicholson's face for such a long time.
That's true.
And I'm like, okay, lots of emotions happening, da, 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 and then he falls asleep. And so I thought that was not the best way to carry the action forward. He had to, because they had to be stuck there.
Right.
It would have been better if they'd been caught.
Like in the actual act.
In the actual act, a nurse comes across them, or the Scatman Crothers comes out and calls for help, and something happens. But the falling asleep just seemed weak.
Okay.
So that's my flaw. Any flaws?
No.
Okay.
Unless something was glaringly obvious, I was struggling to get through the film, so I probably wasn't watching the same way that I would have some of the other films.
Yeah.
I knew I had to, and I knew that I needed to be able to come here and talk eloquently about it. So hopefully I succeeded.
Which you have, absolutely, yes.
But I wasn't really, nothing jumped out at me where like
Okay.
this is bad. This should have been done
Okay.
differently.
All right.
Okay, so we're gonna do a pause. That way I can do a little editing thing.
Oh, okay, excellent.
And now we're going to talk about whether or not you felt that they made the correct choice. May I take a guess?
Go for it.
I think you think they made the wrong choice.
You are incorrect.
Really?
I think they made the right choice.
Okay, interesting. I thought you were gonna go with Dog Day Afternoon.
No, I love Dog Day Afternoon. I thought it was a great film. I thought this was a hard film to watch. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's a very hard film to watch, but it was the best executed on all points. How about you?
I 100% agree.
Oh, nice.
I never
Okay.
want to see this movie ever again in
Exactly.
my entire
Nope.
life, but out of the ones that were there,
Yes,
it is the best picture, period.
I totally agree with that. Yes, and I agree with all of the other awards that it got as well. So I cannot love something, and I can actually consider it very difficult, and also see the artistry behind it. Yeah, it
100%.
was the best movie of the 5. What's the rest of your order?
Dog Day Afternoon, very close. And then Jaws, Barry Lyndon, and Nashville at the very, very bottom.
I actually had Jaws as my second, believe it
Okay.
or not, because again, the movie. I just thought the movie itself was so well done.
And I did this for all of them going through it, looking at the craft, not the enjoyment.
Yep.
Jaws I can watch, I'll probably see it again in 5-6 years.
Yep.
Because it's fun and it's a very well crafted movie.
Absolutely.
I just think Dog Day Afternoon's crafted better, but I have no desire to see that one again either. So.
I think you're right. Absolutely. All right. So yeah, yay. Good
All right.
job.
So do you know the films we're doing? Do you have a list of the films for
I
next
do
year?
not have
Okay.
them. Sorry.
No worries. Next time I'd like to put that in at the end.
Oh,
just
that's a
for,
great idea.
For
Okay.
people. But so do the liking, the subscribing, all that. We're available on YouTube. All the major audio ones. We do both video and audio, which she's got to be learning how to do the audio. So awesome. And see you next time.
All right. Bye.